Hey, my name is Shahd,
And I'm Hala,
and
and
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
draw
draw
our
our
lives.
lives.
So, if I'm gonna begin with anything, I might as well say that I'm a Palestinian born in Nashville, Tennessee on the 9th of November 1997. I'm the oldest sibling of four in a family of six. I spent the first year of my life in America living with my uncle and 10 rabbits, and then I moved to Canada. My life in Canada was great. I made my first actual group of friends that I always hang out with and weren't just family. I even went to public school there called Fairview, that was near my house. I loved that school. I even remember my teacher's name, Miss Cherry, but I still haven't figured out whether that was her real name or not. Anyways, I couldn't stay there for long because when I finished JK, we moved to a city called Sharjah, and that's where my Middle Eastern life began.
I, on the other hand, started my life in Syrian city called Damascus. I was born on 23rd of November 1997, exactly 2 weeks after Shahd. My family has 6 people and I'm the sixth person. After a week of my birth, my dad left to Canada and we stayed back in Syria. 6 months later, we followed him to the west, but we came back to Syria later when I turned one. I went to school in first grade and made friends with half of people there. I remember they used to take us to the roof and teach us how to pray. I also remember that my first teacher had the same name as me. Later that year, my parents left to Saudi Arabia for a short visit and left me with my aunt. It was a crazy experience.
I moved to a new school when I was in grade 1 too. In fact, I moved out of the whole continent. My school's name in Sharjah was School of Creative Science. I had a love-hate relationship with that school, but I was a happy child. I still had my circle of friends that made my childhood so much better than I could have ever asked for. Some of them moved out of Canada like I did, and some of them were friends I made in the country, but that was all outside of school. My life inside of school was different. I had my good days and I had some really bad days. I used to play soccer all the time and wrestle the boys in my class and actually win every time. I'd say that I was an active child, but my middle school years weren't all fun and games. I was bullied on the bus when I was in grade 3 for almost a whole year. I was always peer pressured into sitting in the back of the bus with all the cool kids, the same ones that made me pick up their crap and stuck gum in my hair. On the bright side, we were rich. My dad owned one of the biggest companies in the Middle East, and we moved to Dubai. Life in Dubai was simply amazing. No stress, no taxes, not even homework. Plus, we used to travel to a new country every summer. I remember when I went to Palestine, I would be playing with my cousins, and then we'd hear a bomb explode somewhere outside, and we would all hide under the table. Not much different than our common sense rules, really. Like, look both ways before you cross the street and don't talk to strangers. Except for them, it's more like hide under the table when you hear a bomb and don't talk to soldiers. You don't want to be taken away. It's different.
I moved to new school when I was in grade 4. That school was different. I remember one day my friends told me that a guy in my class liked me. When he came to class next day, I stood in front of him, put my hand on my waist, and said, I know everything my friends told me. The boy smiled and said, okay, and then walked away. 3 days later, he fell for my best friend, and I was a messenger. When I was in 7th grade, I moved to new all-girls school in Syria. I was popular there, and I had a lot of friends. Grade 9 was my favorite school year ever. My best friend lived right next door to me, and we used to hang out at each other's places till morning. It was a really good year, until the Syrian revolution came from. I started seeing small groups of people on the street. They were so small at the time that I even enjoyed one with my friends one day. There wasn't much killing happening yet. Occasionally, a striker would get shot by a cop, or bullets would be fired into the air to scare people off. But soon, bullets weren't only fired into the air anymore. They were fired at the people, men, women, kids, anyone. Then the bombs came. Civilians and the striker were being shot down and taken in hundreds by the army. We had to leave. So my dad took us back to Canada in summer of 2012. At first, I thought we were staying there for summer and then going back, but we never did. We started hearing news about disappearing family members and murdered friends. Then one day, my dad got a call from his friend telling us that our house in Syria robbed and vandalized. We were so shocked and upset. I was more than upset, because all those memories were gone now, and things can never go back to the way they were.
I wasn't much better off either. Things started downgrading after the recession, and they got even worse when my dad's thieving coworkers came along. They caused problems and ended up stealing the company. Cases were filed in court, and things continued to get worse until we had to leave the country and go to Jordan, where I spent the most depressing 1.5 years of my life. I was one depressed 13-year-old when I left Dubai. I even got self-consciousness problems and lost 10 pounds in only my first month there. My aunt's cancer got worse, and we used to go to her house and take care of her 5 kids every day after school for 18 months. In the middle of ninth grade school year, my dad took us back to Mississauga, and about a month later, we got a call that my aunt had passed away. It was a rough start.
On September 4th of 2012, I went to public school for my first time in my life. I was nervous and scared that I wouldn't fit in, especially because my English wasn't very good.
It was my first time at public school too, but I wasn't nervous. In fact, I was kind of emotionless. I wasn't thinking of starting a social life. I was just there to study. That is until I met Hala.
I was sitting by myself in the library on the first day of school, and then this girl comes up to me and sits across the table.
She seemed like a person waiting to be approached, and I had nothing better to do.
At first I thought that she was Pakistani, which didn't solve my language issue, but then I found out we shared the same heritage, so that made a good foundation for the start of friendship.
Our circle of friends got bigger by next semester. Jasmine, Farah, Zahra, Lamis, and occasionally Ola were our girls. I take a bullet for any one of them, and to be honest, I'm proud of all the dumb crap we did inside and outside of school this year. I couldn't have asked for a better semester.
But in reality, sweet things like that don't last. I recently found out we are moving to Calgary by the beginning of summer, July 2nd to be exact. My brothers live in Calgary, so we are going to join them. I don't know what to expect. They said that Calgary is beautiful, but I'm not excited about having to start life all over again. Hopefully, things will all be alright in the end.
They always do.